Hello there, and welcome to Dream Myths. Tonight, we shall embark upon a journey into the realm of King Arthur, a world brimming with ancient magic and timeless legends. But before we set forth on this mystical path, I invite you to find your sanctuary, to let your body settle into a state of profound ease. Simply begin by noticing the gentle rhythm of your breathing, allowing yourself to become intimately aware of each rise and fall of your chest, the quiet ingress and egress of the air. There is no need to alter this natural cadence, merely to observe it, letting your muscles recall the exquisite sensation of complete repose. Perhaps your arms may grow heavy by your sides, your legs sinking deeper, even the subtle lines of your face softening, your forehead, your cheeks, the very space around your eyes. In this hallowed quietude, there is naught else demanded of you save to listen and to rest. Each passing moment shall guide you deeper into this tranquil state, much like settling into the most yielding of armchairs after a long and arduous journey. As you recline here in perfect stillness, utterly unburdened by obligation, prepare your spirit to join me on this evening's grand adventure. For in this initial serenity lies an unspoken invitation, a whispered promise of a voyage not merely within the narrative, but deep within the very chambers of your own being, forging a sanctuary where the enigmatic can be safely explored. And now, let us see what wonders we shall uncover. This chronicle, steeped in the annals of antiquity, unwinds a narrative surrounding King Arthur, the fabled sovereign of Britain, whose reign was graced by the illustrious Knights of the Round Table. Central to this unfolding drama is also Sir Gawain, the king's own nephew, widely revered as the most noble among those who held their honored seats at that very table. Our story, much like countless sagas of its ilk, commences with the timeless archetype of a damsel in distress. It is recounted that she arrived whilst the royal court was convened in Carlisle, upon a day when the pervasive autumn mist clung low and heavy about the venerable castle walls. Within the vast expanse of the great hall, the knights were, as was their custom, gathered in convivial camaraderie, regaling one another with vivid accounts of their most recent exploits. The ancient fire, a living entity within the enormous stone hearth, crackled with a joyful abandon, its dancing shadows weaving intricate patterns across the rich tapestries that adorned the stately walls. Yet, even amidst this tableau of peaceful repose, a subtle, almost imperceptible tremor of unease began to insinuate itself into the very fabric of the warm air, akin to a cold draft, stealing through an unlatched casement. And it was precisely then, in the heart of this serene scene, that the formidable oak doors, with a force that seemed to defy their very construction, burst open. They struck the unyielding stone walls with a thunderous crash, a sound that echoed like a clap of doom. A figure of pure desperation stumbled into the hall, her hair, disheveled and matted, hung in wild strands. Her garments were cruelly torn, and her eyes, wide with an almost feral grief, bore witness to untold suffering. Her bare feet left stark, muddy impressions upon the highly polished stones, and her breathing, ragged and desperate, suggested a relentless flight, as if she had run for countless miles without respite. "Help me, King Arthur," she shrieked, her voice raw with anguish. "My beloved husband has been cruelly stolen from me and enslaved by the nefarious Knight of Tarn. Though I fought him with every fiber of my being, see how my clothes are torn. There was utterly nothing I could do. My husband is lost to me, and so I turn to you, great king. Great king, I implore you, restore him to me. Slay this Knight of Tarn." The sudden, violent intrusion of this woman, akin to a bolt of lightning striking a placid sky, shattered the tranquil harmony of the hall. It ignited within the hearts of all present, and indeed within the very soul of the listener, an insatiable curiosity regarding her identity and the profound tragedy that had so mercilessly propelled her into their midst. The distraught woman, her strength utterly forsaking her, collapsed to her knees before the high table where King Arthur sat, his crown glinting imperiously in the firelight. Tears streamed unchecked down her dirt-stained cheeks as she stretched out her hands in a desperate gesture of supplication. When King Arthur bore witness to this pitiable sight, he was, quite naturally, deeply shocked. Yet, paradoxically, a subtle current of pleasure also coursed through him. You see, whilst the genuine distress of the poor woman undeniably moved him, he harbored a secret, fervent love for adventure. He simply could not, in all honesty, suppress a certain anticipation for this new and formidable challenge. Indeed, his eyes brightened perceptibly with that familiar, telling gleam, a look his loyal knights knew all too well, the very expression that unfailingly appeared whenever a particularly perilous task presented itself before him. "Fear not, good woman," he declared, his voice ringing with authoritative conviction. No knight, truly no knight, who stoops to enslave the innocent shall ever escape the unwavering justice of Camelot. And so, with a characteristic swiftness born of his resolute spirit, the very same day he set out upon his horse. He rode alone, despite the earnest protests and grave warnings of his assembled advisors. He was armed, it was said, only with a spear and, of course, with Excalibur, his famed magic sword. As he rode, a light, almost carefree whistle escaped his lips, for King Arthur, in all his illustrious life, had never truly known fear. Or perhaps, if he had ever truly felt its icy grip, he had certainly never, ever shown it. Yet, nestled deep within this outward display of indomitable confidence, a nascent seed of foreboding had, in truth, already begun to sprout. A nascent, unsettling premonition whispered to him that this particular odyssey would be fundamentally different from all others. It was an intuitive understanding that his innate, unyielding courage, so often his steadfast companion, would, on this journey, be tested in ways he could scarcely yet conceive, pushing the very boundaries of his legendary fortitude, as King Arthur urged his noble steed ever deeper into the encroaching gloom of the ancient wood. The light-hearted whistle that had accompanied him on his departure slowly, almost imperceptibly, faded and died upon his lips. The comforting murmurs of civilization, the distant sounds of human habitation swiftly receded into the past, swallowed whole by an eerie and profoundly unnatural silence. This was not the quietude of a peaceful forest, but rather an oppressive void, a suffocating absence of all sound that spoke of something deeply amiss. His faithful warhorse, sensing the profound shift in the very atmosphere, became increasingly agitated. It shied nervously at unseen specters amongst the gnarled trees, snorting plumes of white breath into the chilling air, its muscles taut with an instinctive dread. They passed by a lake, its surface as black and still as polished obsidian, where Arthur, peering intently into its depths, could have sworn he discerned ill-defined shapes coiling and shifting beneath the opaque water, as if grotesque, unseen entities stirred just beneath the placid veneer. The trees themselves seemed to conspire against him, their branches stripped bare of their leaves by the harsh season, writhed above like skeletal serpents in a silent, chilling dance. High above, the raucous caw of crows, usually a mere nuisance, now echoed with a horribly mocking, almost sentient laughter, amplifying the unsettling isolation. A shiver, colder than the autumn air, traced its way down King Arthur's spine, and soon his teeth, for the very first time in his intrepid life, began to chatter uncontrollably. His valiant warhorse, a creature of immense courage, trembled beneath him, mirroring its rider's burgeoning unease. The very air itself seemed to grow thick and heavy, pressing down upon each labored breath he took, as though the ancient forest, with a malevolent sentience, was actively conspiring against him, morphing his latent anxieties into palpable, undeniable realities. This suffocating density in the atmosphere was a tangible manifestation of the creeping dread, a slow but relentless suffocation of his brave spirit. Finally, after what seemed an age of this disquieting journey, the dreaded castle of the Knight of Tarn loomed into view. It was a monstrous edifice, so vast and foreboding that it appeared to actively absorb the fading light of the day, leaving a void where warmth and color should have been. Its forbidding stone walls were eerily coated in phosphorescent moss, which pulsed with a sickly greenish glow, casting an unearthly pallor upon its grim visage. Most unsettling of all, the castle's very architecture, with its deep-set, shadowed windows and looming, gaunt towers, bore an uncanny and terrifying resemblance to an enormous human skull, a silent testament to the malevolence it contained. Each measured hoofbeat of his horse now resonated not as a confident stride, but as the mournful, inescapable toll of a funeral drum, leading him inexorably towards a realm where the clear boundaries between the tangible and the illusory blurred and dissolved into a terrifying ambiguity. This was a place where the chilling phantoms of his deepest nightmares coalesced into a cold, hard, inescapable reality. Then, with a metallic groan that seemed to tear at the very fabric of the silence, the formidable portcullis, a barrier of massive iron spikes, began its slow, arduous ascent. As it cleared the archway with a final, grinding creak, the Knight of Tarn himself emerged from the shadowy maw of the castle, astride a colossal black warhorse. And in that precise, chilling moment, as the monstrous figure revealed itself, King Arthur, for the very first time in his life, utterly lost his renowned courage. The Knight of Tarn, a formidable figure, loomed before King Arthur, clad in armor so profoundly black, it seemed to actively absorb all ambient light, rendering him a palpable void of menace. As Arthur looked upon him, a faint groan escaped his throat, the sheer terror of the encounter overwhelming him to such an extent that his body almost yielded to unconsciousness. collapsing to the ground in a posture utterly devoid of strength and dignity. The knight spoke no word, merely dismounted slowly, his every heavy, deliberate step exuding an air of chilling authority as he approached Arthur. Arthur could not, or rather dared not, lift his gaze to meet the eyes of his adversary. A crushing weight of humiliation and helplessness pressing down upon him. Then, in the suffocating silence, a black, spectral sword was slowly drawn from its sheath, emitting a dry, unnerving rasp. A voice, calm and reverberating as if from an abyssal depth, broke the stillness, each word like a stone dropped into Arthur's reeling mind. "I am Gromer's summer jewel," the voice intoned, brimming with power and cruel irony. "Servant to Queen Morgana le Fay, your sworn enemy, Arthur." The shock of this revelation coursed through Arthur like an electric current. But what was more horrifying still was when he finally forced himself to look up. He saw the very woman who had pleaded for his aid, now standing beside Gromer's summer jour, a malevolent, savage smile curving her lips. It was Morgana le Fay herself, his most despised foe, who had disguised herself to deceive him, luring him into this deadly snare. A surge of incandescent fury erupted within Arthur's breast, a scorching anger that consumed the shame of his utter deception, of being played like a mere puppet. His body trembled uncontrollably, not merely from fear, but from a potent cocktail of profound indignation and desperate powerlessness. He sank further, pleading for mercy, a monarch reduced to a supplicant. In that very instant, as King Arthur knelt before his foe, the naked truth of the deception was brutally laid bare. This revelation delivered a powerful shock, not only to Arthur, the greatest of heroes, but it resonated deeply within the listener's mind, exposing the profound fragility and vulnerability of even the most seemingly invincible figures. The collapse of this icon of courage was a staggering blow, serving as a stark reminder that no one, truly no one, is entirely immune to the most insidious and treacherous of schemes. "To slay you now, Arthur," Gromer Summerjour's voice echoed with disdain, "would be an act far too simple, far too merciful for a deception of this magnitude. Your death, swift and clean, holds little sport for Morgana, nor for me. No, your demise shall be earned, a prolonged torment of the mind before the inevitable end of the body. And so, rather than deliver the final, crushing blow, the Black Knight imposed upon Arthur a most peculiar and insidious quest. "You shall return," he decreed, his voice laced with chilling amusement. "In precisely 1 year and a day hence, and upon that solemn return you shall answer a singular question, one whose answer, though seemingly trivial, holds the key to your very existence. What is it that women desire most in the world?" The terms were brutally clear, yet cloaked in a deceptive simplicity. "Should your answer prove correct," Cromer continued, a cruel smile playing on his lips, "your life, by some miracle, shall be spared, and you may ride freely from these cursed lands. But," and here his voice dropped to a guttural snarl, "should your intellect fail you, should your answer be anything less than the absolute truth, then your bones, mighty king, shall join the grim tapestry of skeletons that adorns the very walls of this castle, a chilling testament to your ultimate folly and my Lady Morgana's unyielding triumph." A burst of harsh, triumphant laughter erupted from both the knight and the now revealed Morgana Le Fay. Their mirth, cold and mocking, grated on Arthur's ears as the massive portcullis, with a deafening metallic crash, descended, slamming shut like the maw of some primeval beast. The sound reverberated through the desolate landscape, sealing Arthur's fate and leaving him utterly alone, a solitary figure swallowed by the encroaching shadows and the weight of an impossible riddle. The journey back to the hallowed halls of Camelot, usually a swift and joyous passage, stretched before Arthur as the longest and most torturous of his entire life. Each step of his horse echoed the crushing burden of his shame, the profound humiliation of having been so thoroughly outwitted and exposed. This enigmatic question was not merely a perilous task, a race against the relentless taking of time. It was a profound philosophical conundrum, an intricate puzzle of the human spirit. It forced Arthur to confront not only the terrifying specter of his own mortality, but, perhaps more unsettlingly, the very limits of his understanding of human nature, particularly the elusive complexities of womanhood. This intellectual crucible forged a new peak of tension, a mental gauntlet that now overshadowed even the gravest physical dangers he had ever faced. Upon King Arthur's return to the hallowed halls of Camelot, bearing the crushing weight of his humiliation and the chilling specter of an impending demise, it was none other than Sir Gawain, his devoted nephew and most unwavering confidant, who first bore witness to the profound anguish etched upon the monarch's countenance upon hearing the full, horrifying chronicle of events From Arthur's unprecedented brush with terror to Morgana Le Fay's insidious curse, Gawain, his noble heart aching, immediately cried out in profound anguish that such fear could only have been the insidious work of dark sorcery, a malevolent enchantment that had twisted and suppressed his uncle's innate, unyielding courage. Gawain's unshakable loyalty would not permit him to stand idly by. With a fierce resolve, he instantly proffered to ride forth, alone, to that accursed, shadowed castle, to reclaim the king's honor and to confront the enigmatic Knight of Tarn himself. Yet, King Arthur, his gaze heavy with sorrow but resolute in its conviction, gently restrained his eager nephew. "Nay, Gawain," he uttered, his voice a profound rumble. "This burden is mine alone to bear, a curse that only I may, perchance, unravel. I am bound by this infernal oath to discover, within the span of a single year, that which women desire most deeply in this world." Despite the king's somber resolve, Gawain remained steadfast, his youthful vigor tempered by an unwavering commitment to his liege. He insisted, with an earnestness that brooked no denial, on joining his uncle. He held an unshakable belief that with their combined intellect and fortitude, they would surely possess a greater measure of fortune in confronting this dire and perplexing fate. King Arthur, observing his nephew, regarded him with a profound affection, a potent mixture of gratitude and paternal pride. He noted Gawain's spirited youth, his golden hair, his fair complexion, but most of all, the indomitable nobility of his heart and his unfaltering, unyielding loyalty. These were, in truth, the very quintessential virtues of a true knight, and Arthur knew in that dark hour that Gawain was the solitary soul he could trust implicitly. And so, together, they departed from the ancient city of Carlisle, embarking upon a sprawling odyssey across the breadth of the kingdom, querying every single woman they encountered, from the lowliest peasant to the loftiest queen. Their journey became a vast, intricate sociological survey, a profound inquiry into the feminine psyche, seeking enlightenment from every conceivable quarter. They spoke with regal queens, enthroned in their gilded chambers, and with common peasant women, their hands gnarled from toil. They sought the quiet wisdom of devout nuns hidden within their cloisters, and the practical insights of astute merchants' wives. They posed their enigmatic question to blushing, innocent maidens and to venerable grandmothers, their faces etched with the profound wisdom of countless years. From this multitude of voices, they amassed an astonishing array of answers, often startlingly diverse and at times even contradictory. Some expressed a fervent yearning for gleaming jewels and sumptuous, flowing garments. Others simply wished for the solace of a good husband and loving, dutiful children, whilst yet others sought the profound comfort of security, domestic ease, or a deeper, more ephemeral spiritual fulfillment. There were those who coveted lives of opulent luxury, those who valued unblemished loyalty above all else, and some who dreamed of the tantalizing, elusive promise of immortality or the fierce embrace of personal independence. And in a moment that offered a fleeting, albeit dark, comedic relief, one delightful old lunatic, a charming madwoman in Gawain's private estimation, insisted with unwavering conviction that all women, without exception, desired but one thing: strawberry jam. The sheer, often ridiculous, diversity of these responses, ranging from the utterly mundane to the profoundly bizarre, served only to underscore the bewildering complexity of the question that burdened Arthur. Simultaneously, it deepened the encroaching despair that gripped both knights, drawing the listener ever further into this seemingly futile quest. Each new answer, rather than offering clarity, merely propelled them deeper into a labyrinth of conjecture and perplexing ambiguity. Not a single one of these responses, however eloquently or simply articulated, appeared sufficiently convincing or comprehensively truthful to be the singular key they so desperately sought. Time, that relentless, unforgiving master, accelerated its pace, slipping through their fingers like fine grains of sand. The year was swiftly drawing to a close, and they found themselves upon the return path to the cursed castle, armed with an extensive catalogue of answers. Yet, in the deepest recesses of their hearts, both Arthur and Gawain harbored a bitter, undeniable truth. They had failed. A heavy silence descended upon them, a prelude to the impending storm, as the crushing weight of their imminent failure began to stifle their last vestiges of hope. On the eve of their forced parting, a somber day, etched with the growing certainty of their failure, King Arthur and Sir Gawain stumbled upon a secluded clearing nestled deep within the gnarled embrace of the ancient forest. And there, amidst the dappled light filtering through the autumnal canopy, they encountered a figure that would forever alter the trajectory of their despair. An old woman, initially Gawain, ever the chivalrous and observant knight, perceived her through the soft, golden haze of the setting sun. His immediate impression was of a lady exquisitely adorned, her garments shimmering with what appeared to be a profusion of costly jewels. A fleeting spark of hope, a desperate flicker in the encroaching gloom ignited within him. Perhaps here, at last, was a benevolent sorceress or a wise hermitess who might possess the elusive answer. However, as she slowly turned her head, revealing her visage in the clearer light, Gawain's initial perception shattered into 1,000 shards of disbelief. His breath hitched in his throat. She was, to his profound dismay, unspeakably, horrendously ugly. Her lips, thin and dry, met inches in front of her nose, a grotesque caricature of human features. Her teeth, where they remained, were yellowed and uneven, jutting at odd angles, whilst her skin, a pallid, sagging expanse, resembled nothing so much as a bowl of overcooked rice pudding, mottled and unappetizing. Her hair, sparse and unkempt, was the color and texture of a camel's hide, stringy and unappealing. Her nose was a mere misshapen pug, almost pushed flat against her face, and her eyes, afflicted by a severe squint, gave her the peculiar and disturbing appearance of perpetually attempting to peer up her own nostrils. Her frame was monstrously corpulent, a vast, shapeless bulk from which her hands and feet seemed to sprout directly, as if disembodied appendages attached to a giant, unwieldy mass. Despite this shocking and grotesque appearance, King Arthur, with the innate courtesy befitting his royal station, decided to approach her. This was, after all, their very last resort, the final flickering ember of hope before utter defeat. He bowed deeply, his regal posture contrasting starkly with the old woman's unkempt presence. Yet, before he could even articulate the question that had plagued their every waking moment, she let out a cackle, a dry, rasping sound like withered leaves skittering across frozen ground, and declared, with an eerie prescience that chilled them to the bone, that she already knew both the question and its enigmatic answer. "I shall impart this truth to you," she croaked, her voice like grinding stones, "but only upon one singular condition. It is a price, you see, for knowledge such as this. My desire, my dear king, is to take your valiant nephew, Sir Gawain, as my husband. The sudden, horrifying appearance of this repugnant old woman, coupled with her utterly unimaginable and utterly grotesque demand created an immediate and excruciating narrative knot. This was a crucible of moral and personal dilemma that forced Gawain, the epitome of chivalry and youthful vigor, to confront an unconscionable choice. This moment served as a dramatic apex of personal sacrifice, where the fate of a kingdom, and indeed the very life of the revered king, hinged precariously upon a single knight's willingness to surrender his own happiness, his very dignity, for the greater good. It was a choice that would echo through the annals of Camelot, a decision born of despair, yet destined to unlock an unforeseen redemption. A profound pallor washed over Sir Gawain's face, draining it of its youthful color. For a fleeting, agonizing moment, his mind raced, reeling from the colossal implications of the old woman's dreadful proposition. He was forced to weigh, in the crucible of his soul, the very essence of his knightly reputation, his standing amongst his peers, his fame for comeliness and chivalry, against the grotesque reality of being irrevocably coupled with this monstrous hag. The thought was a searing brand, threatening to scar his very identity. Yet, in that precise instant of profound internal conflict, the nobler, more profound tenets of his knightly vows, the very ideals instilled in him since boyhood, rose to the fore, asserting their undeniable dominion over his personal revulsion. A deeper, more selfless thought, one rooted in the unshakable bedrock of his honor, ultimately prevailed. He was bound not merely by affection, but by an unbreakable covenant of duty to his beloved uncle, King Arthur, and, by extension, to the sacred realm of Camelot itself. The life of his sovereign, the stability of the kingdom, hung precariously in the balance, with a resolve that banished all traces of his initial shock. Gawain straightened his shoulders, though his heart still pounded a frantic rhythm against his ribs. He stepped forward, his voice, though strained, ringing with a newfound resolute clarity that filled the clearing. If, indeed, your ancient wisdom can deliver my king from this dire peril, he declared, his gaze meeting the old woman's unsettling squint without flinching, then I shall, with every fiber of my being, gladly take you as my wife. Upon hearing this extraordinary and heartbreaking pronouncement, King Arthur, who had watched the unfolding drama with growing dread, cried out in anguish, "No, Gawain, my dear nephew, you cannot. I forbid this. I could never possibly permit you to make such a sacrifice, to surrender your life and happiness for my sake." But Gawain, his decision now forged in the crucible of his devotion remained unyielding. "Uncle," he insisted, his voice unwavering, "my word is given. This course of action cannot and will not be stopped." With a solemn dignity that defied the grim reality of his fate, Gawain then knelt upon the cold, damp earth of the clearing. It was a profound gesture of absolute commitment, an irrevocable act of self-abnegation. Before the silent, watchful gaze of his king and the cackling, triumphant crones, he pledged his sacred word as a knight of the Round Table. He sealed his destiny, vowing to marry her if, and only if, her knowledge truly saved the king. This transcendent act of self-sacrifice, a moment of such profound altruistic nobility, resonated with an almost unbearable emotional intensity. It sent a powerful ripple of anguish through Arthur, but also a wave of awe and admiration through anyone who would ever hear this tale. This poignant display of supreme devotion, born from the depths of despair, not only underscored the true measure of Gawain's character, but also laid the critical groundwork for the eventual redemptive release of tension that lay in the chapters yet to unfold. The following morning, King Arthur, imbued with a peculiar blend of lingering dread from the evil he had faced and a nascent, stirring confidence deep within his heart, rode alone once more towards the accursed castle of Tarn. Despite the persistent gloom and chilling air that clung to the land, a flicker of hope had been kindled within him, ignited by Gawain's profound and selfless sacrifice. As he drew nigh, the formidable and terrifying portcullis, a stark symbol of his captivity, began its slow, grinding ascent. The hideous screech of protesting iron against stone echoed eerily in the oppressive silence, a macabre salutation from the abyss. Then the Black Knight himself, still clad in his light devouring armor, galloped forth on his colossal steed, his obsidian sword already drawn from its scabbard, gleaming with a deadly, foreboding sheen. He halted directly before Arthur, uttering no spoken word. Yet the suffocating tension in the air was potent enough to convey a clear, unequivocal command. "The answer, King, the answer." King Arthur, summoning a courage he scarcely knew he possessed, a fortitude born of both desperation and Gawain's unwavering faith, boldly and articulately repeated the exact words the ancient woman had imparted to him. That which women desire most in this world is that they should have their will and that they should rule over men. An absolute profound silence descended upon the scene. The Black Knight stood utterly motionless, a terrifying statue carved from shadow. Then, in a moment that seemed to stretch into an eternity, the dark sword clattered from his hand, striking the ground with a dull, dry clang. The formidable knight, the very embodiment of terror and dominion, inexplicably crumpled, falling to his knees as if every ounce of his immense strength and every vestige of his malevolent magic had been abruptly drained from his very being. In a voice now utterly devoid of its former coldness and cruelty, he unveiled the astonishing truth. "You have answered correctly, Your Majesty. The spell that Queen Morgana Le Fay cast upon me, it is broken." He revealed that he had been an unwilling thrall to Morgana, bound by her dark sorcery, an unwilling instrument of her malice. But now, with the truth unveiled and spoken aloud, her enchantment had completely, irrevocably ceased. With a countenance etched with profound remorse and an ardent desire for redemption, he implored Arthur for the honor of serving him at the round table, seeking to atone for the misdeeds committed whilst under the dark influence of Morgana's magic. King Arthur, with the innate nobility that so defined him, extended his hand in welcome, and as his words of acceptance passed his lips, a truly miraculous sight unfolded before their eyes. The dreaded castle of Tarn, that grim bastion of malevolence and incarceration, began to fissure and crack. Its immense stone walls trembled violently, then crumbled, disintegrating into dust and debris amidst a sudden roaring wind and a glorious, unexpected burst of dazzling sunlight that flooded the entire landscape. Where once a fortress of fear had stood, there was now only a desolate, empty expanse, swiftly being reclaimed by the healing embrace of nature. The birds, as if roused from a prolonged, unnatural slumber, burst into joyous song, their melodious trills composing a vibrant symphony of freedom and burgeoning hope. Arthur and the knight, now revealed to be a good man trapped by Morgana's evil, rode together back to the court. Arthur's heart, though undeniably lightened by the fortuitous outcome of his perilous quest, still carried a subtle, melancholic weight, for he knew, with a pang of bittersweet recognition, that he had a wedding to attend, a wedding in which his beloved nephew had sacrificed his own happiness to secure the very life of his king. The sudden revelation of the correct answer, combined with the miraculous collapse of the castle and the knight's liberation from his cursed enchantment ignited an explosive climax of profound release. It was a momentous aha moment where every intricate knot of the narrative was abruptly untangled, delivering an overwhelming sense of catharsis, as if a grand symphony had reached its most glorious crescendo before gently, gracefully fading into a final, harmonious chord. The nuptials of Sir Gawain, that most noble and virtuous of knights, proved to be an event etched indelibly into the collective memory of Camelot, though for reasons often subtly whispered rather than overtly declared. Preparations for this extraordinary union consumed a full week, a testament to King Arthur's unwavering determination to honor his nephew's monumental sacrifice. The Great Hall, usually a bastion of stern chivalry, was transformed into a veritable kaleidoscope of color, adorned with an abundance of fragrant blossoms and shimmering silk banners, each ripple a silent nod to the gravitas of the occasion. A magnificent feast, meticulously planned to sate the most discerning palates, was prepared, promising a bounty of game, fine wines, and delectable confections. Despite this relentless barrage of unseemly behavior, the assembled court, bound by the rigid strictures of aristocratic politeness and an implicit understanding of the king's plight, maintained a facade of unwavering civility. With strained smiles and forced composure, they diligently aided her when she stumbled in her gait, offered their applause, however thinly veiled, for her shockingly crude jokes, and offered congratulations to poor Gawain with as much sincerity as their contorted expressions could possibly muster. But it was Gawain himself, the central figure in this unfolding tableau of tragicomic irony, who exhibited the most extraordinary display of politeness. Not once, not even for a fleeting instant, did he betray the profound reluctance that gnawed at his very soul. With an unwavering display of chivalrous duty, he unfailingly addressed her as "my lady," his voice a balm of courtesy. He steadfastly held her arm, a gesture of unwavering support despite his inner turmoil, and with tireless attentiveness ensured her goblet was perpetually refilled with the finest wine. This scene, so sharply etched with a biting, almost tragic satire, found its power in the stark and uncomfortable juxtaposition of the court's forced elegance and the woman's flagrant vulgarity. It created a darkly humorous yet profoundly poignant tableau, serving to deepen the audience's empathy for Gawain's unenviable plight. The forced smiles, the feigned applause, the suffocating politeness, all served as a painful backdrop to the immense personal sacrifice Gawain was so stoically enduring, cementing his image as the epitome of a noble spirit trapped in an agonizing, self-imposed predicament. Alone, at last, in the bedchamber, a space that should have been a sanctuary of marital bliss, but felt instead like a gilded cage. Sir Gawain could no longer maintain his impeccable facade, his stoicism, so rigorously upheld throughout the day's agonizing festivities, finally crumbled as he stood there, watching his grotesque wife meticulously powder her prodigious triple chin with an almost disturbing detachment. A torrent of raw emotion overwhelmed him. The sheer weight of his sacrifice, the grim reality of his new bond, proved too much to bear. A choked sob escaped his lips, and then, uncontrollably, he burst into bitter tears. The silent anguish of a knight brought to his knees not by a sword, but by a vow. The lady, observing his profound distress, spoke, her voice still retaining that grating, gurgling quality, yet now tinged with an unexpected softness. "My lord Gawain," she queried, her words cutting through the heavy silence, "what troubles you so on this, our sacred wedding night? Have you not acquitted yourself with honor and saved your king?" Gawain, his heart heavy with shame, felt compelled by an unseen force to articulate the truth, however brutal. "My lady," he confessed, his voice thick with unshed tears, "I am forced to be your husband, and if I am to speak with utter honesty, it is a fate I would rather not endure." He then, with immense reluctance and a deep blush of embarrassment, laid bare his perceived grievances. "You are, forsooth, old and of a disquieting ugliness that pains the eye. Moreover, your birth, if I may be so bold, is humble, far beneath that of a knight of the Round Table, let alone a king's nephew." The woman, instead of reacting with the expected fury or despair, merely gurgled once more, a sound that oddly conveyed a sense of profound amusement. Then, to Gawain's utter astonishment, she responded not with anger, but with a wisdom that transcended her repulsive exterior. "Indeed, my lord," she began, her voice gaining an unexpected depth. "You speak of age, but does not age, in its relentless passage, also bestow wisdom? And with wisdom comes discretion. a quality often overlooked, yet one that makes for a truly valuable and understanding wife, far more so than youthful impetuousness. As for my ugliness, you fret about rivals, my lord? Rest assured, my unsightly visage shall ensure your peace of mind on that score. No man will ever cast a covetous glance upon me, leaving your heart and mind free of such base anxieties. She then deftly pierced the veil of his aristocratic snobbery. And as for my humble birth, pray tell, my lord, from whence does true nobility spring? Is it merely from the accident of one's lineage, the inherited titles of ancestors long past? Or does true nobility, in its purest, most profound essence, not rather emanate from the very character of a man, from his deeds, his honor, and the inherent goodness of his soul? She paused, her gaze, despite its squint, seeming to penetrate the very depths of his being. Can you not, therefore, my lord, teach me to be noble by your own exemplary conduct? In that pivotal moment, as the grotesque facade of her appearance melted away before the sheer brilliance of her intellect, Gawain, despite the lingering vestiges of his personal aversion, could not deny the undeniable logic and profound truth of her words. A wave of profound shame washed over him, realizing the discourtesy and prejudice he had so callously displayed towards the very woman who had, by her unparalleled insight, saved his uncle's life. He bowed his head, humbled and repentant. "My lady," he murmured, his voice now imbued with genuine remorse. "I truly beg your pardon. My words were ill chosen, and my heart was clouded by superficiality. It was this very instant, this cathartic eruption of Gawain's raw emotion, followed by the woman's utterly unexpected and profound philosophical discourse, that created a dual climax of both intense feeling and intellectual revelation. Here, the listener was not merely a passive recipient of a tale, but was actively compelled to reflect upon the very essence of beauty, the true definition of nobility, and the multifaceted, often paradoxical, nature of love itself. It was a moment designed to stir the soul, inviting introspection and challenging preconceived notions. "Now, come to bed, my lord," she commanded, her voice softening further, the simple words carrying a weight of invitation that transcended mere physical union, promising a deeper connection forged in understanding. As her words, so unexpected in their profound wisdom, faded into the silence of the bedchamber, Gawain, still reeling from the weight of his own humbled confession, detected a subtle yet unmistakable alteration in her very voice. It was as if a harsh, rasping veil had been lifted, revealing a timbre of bell-like clarity and gentle resonance. To his utter, breath-stealing amazement, the transformation began before his very eyes. The grotesquely bloated features seemed to recede, the sallow skin gaining a vibrant, healthy flush. The monstrous bulk of her form melted away like mist before the morning sun. No longer was there a fat, ugly hag. Instead, stretched gracefully upon the silken sheets of his marital bed, lay a young woman of breathtaking beauty, her skin as fair as new cream, her features exquisitely delicate, and her eyes, those formerly squinted, disturbing eyes, were now soft, luminous pools of warm brown, gazing at him with an intelligent tenderness. She then, in a voice as melodious as a nightingale's song, began to unravel the tapestry of her true identity and the dark enchantment that had bound her. "My Lord Gawain," she explained, a wistful smile gracing her perfect lips. "Gromer Summer Jure, the Black Knight, is my very own brother. We were both, alas, cursed, enslaved by the dark magic of Queen Morgana Le Fay, your sworn enemy, who delights in the torment of those who stand for goodness and purity." She continued, her gaze unwavering. "I aided the king, your uncle, in the hope of liberating my brother from his torment. But for myself, there was a different, more intricate key to my own deliverance. Only the profound kindness and the true understanding born of a truly noble spirit, one capable of seeing beyond mere superficiality, could ever break the potent enchantment that imprisoned me." A profound realization dawned upon Gawain, illuminating the true depth of her words, and indeed his own journey. "Your actions, my lord," she whispered, her voice brimming with a quiet gratitude. "Your selfless vow, your willingness to honor your word even in the face of such revulsion, your innate courtesy, even when faced with my ugliness and lowliness. These were the very virtues that severed the chains of my curse. You, Sir Gawain, have given me this deliverance, and now I am truly your wife, in spirit as well as in name, and the choice, my noble knight, is still utterly yours." Gawain was, for a long moment, utterly speechless, his mind struggling to reconcile the abhorrent image of moments before with the radiant beauty that now lay before him. Then, With a tenderness that spoke volumes of his heart's burgeoning affection, he reached out, took her delicate hand, and pressed it gently to his cheek, a gesture brimming with newfound reverence. "My lady," he whispered, his voice thick with emotion, "I would be immeasurably honored to be your husband. For I love you, not merely for this newfound beauty which delights my eyes, but for the profound wisdom you showed me when my spirit was clouded by prejudice and my soul was most in need of true enlightenment. This wondrous, almost divine metamorphosis of the lady, coupled with Gawain's utterly sincere and heartfelt declaration of love, burst forth as a breathtaking climax of emotional release. It was a magnificent explosion of happiness and mutual recognition, leaving an indelible impression upon the heart and mind of the listener. It underscored with crystalline clarity the enduring power of true, unconditional love and the profound, transformative essence of genuine nobility, revealing that beauty in its deepest sense lies far beyond the physical realm. The dawn that followed this miraculous night broke upon Camelot with a promise of renewal. When the court assembled, their collective astonishment was palpable, bordering on incredulity. The beautiful young lady, radiant and poised, stood beside Sir Gawain, a living testament to a magic that defied all earthly understanding. Gasps rippled through the hall, murmurs of wonder, replacing the previous day's hushed laments and forced pleasantries. The transformation was complete, profound, and utterly bewildering to all who had witnessed the grotesque bride of the previous day. King Arthur, his heart now truly lightened and brimming with a joyous relief, commanded that a second wedding feast be immediately arranged. This time, there would be no forced smiles, no feigned applause, no underlying current of sorrow. This feast was to be a true celebration, an unbridled outpouring of genuine revelry, allowing everyone to truly, wholeheartedly enjoy themselves, their spirits uplifted by the sheer wonder of the event. And so it came to pass that Sir Gawain and his lady, now revealed in her exquisite grace, lived together in profound happiness for many, many years. Their union became a beacon of true love, illustrating that genuine affection and profound connection transcended mere physical appearances. Their lives unfolded in a tapestry woven with joy and mutual respect, a testament to the noblest of sacrifices. Yet, despite this idyllic harmony, the extraordinary tale of the ugly wife was never, ever recounted in their presence, for fear of causing them even a scintilla of embarrassment or discomfort. However, in the hallowed quietude of winter nights, when the ancient fires crackled merrily in the great hall, and the knights and their pages gathered close, seeking solace and wonder in the shadows, the strange and captivating story would invariably be whispered anew. It became a cherished piece of oral tradition passed from one generation to the next, subtly infused with the wisdom it imparted. This concluding happiness, though exquisitely rendered, was always tempered with a delicate touch of lingering mystery and an almost ethereal ambiguity surrounding the precise details of the enchantment and the true nature of such profound transformation. It created an unforgettable, haunting echo in the hearts of those who heard it. A gentle yet persistent insistence on the powerful lesson it contained. This subtle ambiguity compels the listener to not merely accept the ending, but to reflect deeply upon the true essence of nobility, the deceptive nature of appearances, and the boundless, transformative power of genuine love. It is a tale designed not merely to entertain, but to linger, to provoke thought, and ultimately to be retold, ensuring its timeless wisdom endures.